Hey guys, so welcome back. It's Buzzy B here once again. All right, so I think let's talk about export settings, especially in Adobe Premiere. I don't know what settings you guys are using. If they are the correct settings, what should you use? But what I would like to do is, I will show you guys the settings that I use, and you guys can also tell me, whether I'm using the correct settings or not. Should I maybe try other settings? Remember, we are all learning from each other. All right, so I'm gonna go right into Adobe Premiere and show you the settings that I use at the moment for my videos. All right, let's check it out. All right, so I'm in Adobe Premiere and I've selected a clip here. As you can see, it's taken from a music video that I shot of a lady that won one of my competitions. We hosting this annual artist competition, and she was one of the winners for last year's competition. That was 2019. All right, so it's a very short clip. I didn't really want to take a very long clip because it's just a very quick demonstration. All right, so first things first, obviously, I think is what is very important is if you have a clip in your timeline, first things first would be to check your sequence settings and to make sure your sequence settings is correct, and it's in relation to the video that you actually shot. So if I go to my sequence settings now, this clip was shot in 25 frames per second, right? So obviously it is highly recommended that you change your sequence settings exactly to the settings that your clip is. So I'm gonna go to my sequence settings quickly, and then obviously we select sequence settings on top. So these are normally the settings that I use. The editing mode I would use DNX 1080p, but I mean if I click on it, you'll see there's a long list of different settings that you can use. I mean, obviously if you shoot in with a red camera, you're gonna use red cinema. Maybe if you shoot on an airy, you're gonna use airy cinema. But I mean, for this one, I would prefer DNX, or I would say maybe HDV 1080p. But let's go with DNX 1080, right? So I don't really know whether that really matters. Does it really have an effect on your sequence settings? I'm not 100% sure. But if you know the answer to that, guys, please let me know in the comments below. I think the most important thing would be your time base, which is 25 frames. I mean, it's exactly the same as your video footage. Display format is 25 frames per second. Pixel aspect ratio, I mean, obviously there's no other options, so you leave it at that. And I wouldn't really change anything else. So I would just press OK. But now remember, guys, whenever you press OK, you must keep in mind that you can't change those settings. So once you've made changes to those sequence settings, make 100% sure that you've selected the right settings. All right, so obviously you would do your editing, you do your color correction, color grading, etc., on all your clips, and after that, of which you will then render your footage. Now, in this instance, I've already rendered this short clip. As you can see, it shows green. Normally, it will show yellow if it's not rendered. And I think if you are not using a graphics card, it might show something else. But in this case, I am using a graphics card, and it would show yellow if it's not rendered. So now it's green, which means it's rendered. And I mean, I've selected my in and out points because it's basically just this that I want to export. You don't even have to select your in and out points. But I mean, let's say you just want to export a specific portion of the video, then obviously you would then go to the end of that clip, and you would set your in and out points. You maybe mark in, which is the beginning of this clip, and then your mark out. But I've selected mark out, so it means that entire clip is now selected. Right. Thereafter, you would go obviously to your file tab, and you would scroll down to your export tab and media. Right. So now we're in media, and as you can see, it's it's set to, I don't know if this is presets or whatever the case may be, but I would think so. But obviously, if you want to change that, and I mean, normally what you would export in, if let's say you exporting just a video for YouTube, or you want something to go on Facebook or whatever the case may be, then the preferred format would then be H.264. So now if I click on this and I scroll down, there is my H.264. So that's the one I select, and then you'll see it'll automatically show match source, high bit rate. But I want you guys to look at the estimated file size, right? So those are the recommended preset that automatically comes with the H.264 format. And you can see, as I said, this clip is very short. Estimated file size about 4 megabytes, right? But now I normally would change that because I want the best quality of the video that I'm exporting, because you must keep in mind, if you are exporting for platforms such as YouTube and Facebook, remember those platforms, they have a compression. So if you're going to export it in a okay kind of file size, in terms of quality, remember YouTube and Facebook, they are going to compress it, and then your video might not look as great as you envisioned it. So what's the best thing to do then is to rather export it in a higher quality. So if YouTube or Facebook decides to compress it, then you still have a very good quality file on those platforms. So what I would normally do is I would change this to either high quality 1080p, and if I click on it, you'll see I want you to take note of what happens to the estimated file size. So you see now the file size has increased from 4 megabytes to 8 megabytes, which is actually double. But now let's say this is a large file, maybe an hour-long file, and you obviously, if you're going to select that option, then obviously your file size is going to be massive, right? So let's say you don't want that massive file size, because obviously, especially within Adobe Premiere, if your file size is huge, then obviously the rendering process or the encoding and the export process takes quite a while, right? So let's say you only want something for, let's go to YouTube. Let's go to YouTube. You can select YouTube. So now you can obviously see that the file size is a bit lower than the high quality, but it's like in between, the two that I've mentioned earlier, right? So it's still proper, right? So I think that's what you can do. But the other thing that you must also keep in mind is, I would say, before I get to those settings over there, I would say obviously you're gonna have to make sure 100% everything is right here. Make sure your output name is correct. Make sure if you click on it, you know exactly where the file is going to be saved, and then you have to make sure that these two boxes are ticked. If it's not ticked, if let's say only the export video is ticked, then it's only going to export the video without the audio, guys. So make 100% sure that those two are actually ticked. And then obviously your output and your source, you can also check here if it's exactly the same. I mean, obviously, like I said, this file was shot in 1920 by 1080, 25 frames, and you can see your output is exactly the same, right? So make 100% sure those settings are the same. So now if we go to the video, you can now scroll down. Even your frame rate, if you just uncheck that box, you can now, if you want it maybe in a lower frame rate or whatever the case, which is not advisable, but now you can change your frame rate over here as well. I wouldn't change this, your square pixels, I would leave it as it is. Over here, your standard TV. Remember, last time I said South Africa, we fall under the PEL broadcasting language. But if you are falling under NTSC, then you can obviously change it to NTSC and then just uncheck that box and then make your selection, whatever the case may be, right? Okay, I'm gonna leave it at PAL. All right, so yeah, I would say check your render at maximum depth. We go down, I would leave that at high, obviously, and then leave that at 4.2. I wouldn't really change that. Let's go down and see what other options are there. And then your bit rate encoding, I would change that to VBR2 pause. Now what that basically does, as you can see, so it'll export like in two phases. So the first phase would then be, it's like, you know, analyzing the footage first to see which sections of the footage, you know, needs more megabits and which section does not, you understand? So that's the analyzing process, and after that then you get to the actually encoding and the exporting process. I would say, to make 100% sure, especially when your video is shot in a high quality like 4K or HDR or whatever, I would say select VBR2 pause. And then here, so now what you can do is, even though we've selected, you know, the YouTube one, and it says your estimated file size is about 6 megabits. So now here it shows you exactly what your target bitrate and your maximum bitrate would be. So I would maybe increase it to this one, maybe to 30, right? And then this one you can change maybe to 50. So now you would know that, you know, you preserve that quality even if YouTube decides to compress your video. So I would say those are the settings that you must use. You know, it's just my opinion, guys. I mean, obviously if you guys are doing it differently, please do let me know in the comment section below. And then, you know, the rest I will leave unchecked. Let's go over to audio. I would leave the audio format at AAC. Sample rates, remember now your video output is in 48 Hertz, so I would leave it at 48 Hertz. If you feel like you want to change it, you can change it to 44 100. I wouldn't go lower than that. You leave your channel on studio, and obviously your audio quality, obviously you're gonna select high. You don't want a medium or low quality audio. And then obviously your bit rate, you're gonna select 320, because 320 is like the best audio quality. Obviously I would say if you wanna really now make changes, the lowest you should go is 128. Do not go lower than 128, but for best audio quality, leave it at 320. So don't change anything over there. And then you can go down. Yeah, obviously that'll remain. I don't think you should do anything here. Do not bother with those. The two main things that you should focus on is your video and your audio. And then if we scroll down, we have to check our use maximum render quality. As you can see, it says it gives better quality scaling, but it increases. The same as with the maximum render at maximum. So select that option, and then these I would leave unchecked. So now after making those changes, now you can clearly see that our estimated file size has increased to 12 megabytes. Right. So there's a lot of information, obviously, guys, that is still in that particular video. So like I said, compression is not really gonna do anything when it comes to your quality that you want on your YouTube channel or your Facebook page or whatever. And then obviously here you will just say export. Right. If we go to this side, you can make a selection. remember now you can see here it says sequence in and out, so it has selected in and out. You can even move this, and now we'll only see, you can see the times here. It'll now only, let's say you only want 10 seconds, you move that to 10 seconds, and then it will only export 10 seconds. So you can maybe can slide this wherever, how long you want your video to be, but I'll leave it at the end. Or you can maybe select entire sequence if you had the whole video is already rendered and you want the whole video to be exported, you select entire sequence. But it was set at sequence and now, so I don't really change anything over there. And obviously now you'll just export, guys, and then voila, you will be done. Right. All right, so if there's any questions, guys, please let me know in the comment section. Like I said, if it is that you are using different settings, oh yeah, this is the last thing that I wanted to show you. Let's say you are exporting for broadcasting channels, and I mean, remember what I said, if you must go and check their requirements, right? So in most cases, like MTV, those kind of platforms, they would say they want their file to be in ProRes, right? So now the nice thing about Adobe Premiere is that it's got those options, it's got those ProRes options. So if you click on your format, you scroll down to QuickTime, right? And then on your preset, you will select, if you open it, you'll see those are all the ProRes options. So obviously the best one in this case would be your Apple ProRes 422 HQ. But please remember, guys, these are almost like uncompressed files. It's the file size, and depending on how large your video is, the file size of your end video will be massive, but it will also, it's like it preserves the quality and all those high resolutions in your video. So and I mean, obviously, I think that's why one of the reasons why these guys prefer a larger file. So if it is that they put it on their broadcasting platform, and they even play it at HD, it still has that crisp quality, you understand? So it's the same as if you were recording maybe something in 4K or 6K or 8K, and you downscale it to 1080p. You will see that the quality is even better than if you shot the video in just 1080p. I don't know if you guys agree with me. You can maybe go and check that. I definitely have experience of that, because so and that's also one of the reasons why I shoot my videos or in a higher resolution, like in 4K. I normally shoot in 4K, and then I downscale it or I export it in HD at 1080p, because then I know the quality is even better than the normal 1080p. So yeah, in this case, obviously, just be careful of that. If you are gonna maybe export in that, it is gonna drastically increase your file size of your video. All right, but other than that, I would say use H.264 if it's just for YouTube and those kind of platforms. All right, so like I said, guys, any questions, please let me know. If it is that you have a different opinion on export settings, especially in Adobe Premiere, please let me know. I'm always open to learn. I'm not an expert, like I said many times. I'm not an expert, I'm still learning. So if you know of a better way to export, please comment in the comment section. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have learned something from this. Please be on the lookout for more videos to come. Next week we're doing this each and every Wednesday, so please subscribe, guys, to this channel, and once again share it with your friends and family. Looking forward to see you guys next week. On that note, guys, have a lovely week, lovely weekend. Be safe. I'm out.